We're going back to the streets, and we can see the Wiper leader there with the umbrella. And this is all about also the contentious issues regarding the Finance Bill 2024 that has elicited a lot of reactions, and the Kenyans as well are crying foul over the much taxation they're experiencing. The president has said that you should be now expecting taxation yearly. It should be going higher and higher. And Limuru 3, that is where now the rift is, as you can see, between now the Azimio and also Kenya Kwanza leaders from the Mount Kenya. And you can see now the crown is off his head, actually. Is it getting down to his belly? I don't know. You can decipher that for us and what it does mean. This is Limuru 3. It's a big day today, and that also will be where our eyes will be kept peeled and ears kept out to just glean and also see what will be happening as far as this rift is concerned. A big also U-turn from Cabinet Secretary Moses Kuria, who had earlier indicated that he'll be in attendance, but now he's circled back on that particular decision. And still, on taxes, a proposed President Ruto statue, where should we erect it as a landmark in Kenya? What do you think about this statue and taxes as well? This is what Stano has drawn. And you can see Wananchi thinking about it, a proposed President Ruto statue, where should we erect it as a landmark in Kenya. I will show you also what we have in the Daily Nation much, much later as it comes to hand. And it's all about also Jubilee and the Mount Kenya region and the shopping therein. I'll leave it for you to see it much, much later. I can't just explain it so that you can get a clear picture there. But of course, we have a crown which is flying, and we have on one side shopping basket or the trolley being carried there. Inside we have Kioni, and we have also David Murade. And on one side as well, we have the Jubilee trolley walking away with Moses Kuria and some of other Jubilee party's operatives. We shall be showing you that much, much later in the course of the program as well. But we want to buckle down to also a very interesting conversation that has come to the fore in light of what is happening with State House and the financial bill that has revealed a lot of issues. What do you think about the 1.6 billion shillings on State House's lodges that is being spent there? There is a deep State House repairs money pit, and you can see some of the scaffolds. That is a State House, as you can see. Scaffoldils, that is what the word I'm trying to trip off my tongue right now. State House Comptroller tells MPs President Ruto wants budget slashed. We know 300 billion shillings is what KRA has not been able to realize. Do we have our priorities right? Let's just begin with governors and policy analyst Kipruta Rapkirwa on this particular revelations that we have today in the dailies.
Well, Dibal, it is also my pleasure to join my colleagues in making some few comments. About the budget, I don't know why the government has not been listening to us. One, we need to do human resource audit for purposes of managing the expenditure insofar as human resource is concerned. We talk of spending about 35% on human resource, but then we don't ask ourselves, where are these people? Because we say there are ghost workers in State House, there are ghost workers in Parliament, and there are people who are getting their salaries through the same account, and yet they are not married together. Perhaps if they were couples, they would be getting money through the same account by their own choice. But for a very strange reason, in many counties, this is what is happening. And there is also duplication of roles in various counties, and also presence of workers who should not be there. So the first place should have been, we ensure that we do human resource audit so that the complement that we have is a complement that needs to be used for purposes of spurring growth and ensuring there is some prosperity in our nation. The second issue, which I think is very important, is to improve tax collection measures. Today, if you are to log in, and I'm being told by many organizations, You log in and you are told the systems are down, whether it is City Hall, whether it is KRA, whether it is NTSA. Most of the time, those systems are down. And for the information of Kenyans, I'm told, if you are to make some payment at that particular time, your money will never be recovered. So why don't we improve the systems so that we do not blame the public that we are not raising enough, and yet it is the systems that are frustrating the issue of receiving the revenue. This is done because of a lot of pilferage and a lot of corruption in various institutions. Today, any government officer tells you, and I talked to many of them because these were my people some time back, they say for a file to move, you must pay. And it is not hidden. Even a colleague will tell you, I cannot do anything. This file does not have the requisite page to make sure that I sign. And the requisite page is money, so that the file moves from myself to Barak Muluka, to Professor Kindiki, to Chajil Suba, and eventually to you for the final approval for that particular purpose. This tells you that the government itself is sabotaging itself. Sabotaging itself in the sense that it has not improved the systems that is supposed to serve the government. So they are coming to the public to increase tax measures, but they are not improving their own tax operations. Now, the second issue is, now when they get the money, state of renovation, when you talk of 12 billion in the next couple of years, unless you are building another state house, renovation is different from construction of a structure. You see, like what they are saying they want to spend in the deputy president's residence in Karen is almost 5 times the amount they used to build it. So renovation, we do renovations because we also have some little houses or some homes here or elsewhere. And if you build a house using about 20 million, you cannot tell us that you are going to use 100 million to renovate the same house unless you are totally building another house next to the old house. So it devised logic for the government to say they are renovating all these state lodges and state houses. They could have done it in phases, and the amount of money should not be to the magnitude they are telling us, unless there is a system they are using under the so-called security considerations to make sure that they pilferage this money for purposes of some people getting some little allowances here and there. Otherwise, it is not logical for us to spend that kind of money in those measures.
But Honorable Kirwa, this is State House. The water faucets, maybe they should be of high quality silver and gold. The chandelier as well should be glittering and large and ornate, right? To just give the impression of that we're in State House, the opulence that goes with it at the end of the day. So the furniture is not just your ordinary furniture that you can just import from China to State House as well. It has to be a bespoke. It has to be a bespoke furniture. The Chinaware as well in State House, that cutlery we were talking about, right? So that will explain why we need 1 billion shillings at the end of the day. Because if you're renovating this year, I wonder what is the traction of the wear and tear that is happening in a day within State House. Unless maybe also we have so many people who are going to State House bringing their grievances. And there's so much dignitary, maybe also who are visiting State House. There's wear and tear. There's so much activity that is happening at State House. You need mineral water. Maybe you have pipelines direct coming from Mount Kenya itself, right? Also within State House. Barak, I don't know what will you say.
As I listen to you, Dubal, and as I listen to Mheshimiwa Kirwa here, I'm reminded that there was a residence, a presidential palace in Badolite.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
In Badolite, towards the north of what is today DRC. And it was coated in solid gold. It It was the State House of Mobutu Sese Seko whom we spoke about last week. I know these things are, first of all vanity, because you don't go to those offices to garnish them with those kinds of excesses. You go there because you have asked that you want to serve the people. But quite often, people ascend to positions of leadership and they lose touch completely with reality. Because away from the very relevant issues that Mheshimiwa Kirwa talks about, issues of technology, issues of efficiency in tax collection, they are just questions of priorities. And I think that we have got our priorities completely upside down. If I were to talk about the State House, which I'm not extremely familiar with, but I could say something about how you access State House. Go and take a walk on State House Road today and look at the craters on State House Road. And I believe that those who organize President Ruto's itineraries and routing make sure that he probably never accesses that residence through State House Road. He's probably accessing it consistently through State House Avenue, which is a little more neat looking, a little more refurbished. But even if you used State House Road, State House Avenue, you would get to Valley Road, Jomo Kenyatta Avenue, Valley Road, and you'd see the very sorry state of that road. And adjacent, cutting across the other side, is Nyerere Road, which again is in deplorable condition. These roads surround State House itself should tell His Excellency the President the state of the art. But when you move away from those roads and you talk about these so-called renovations and refurbishments that are costing billions of shillings, they are happening at a time when hundreds of thousands of Kenyan citizens are homeless, courtesy of the recent floods, maybe current floods. Since I've seen some as I was leaving my house, the current floods. There are people whose houses have been brought down. Some have died in the process. If we are talking about the need for shelter and decent shelter, that is where perhaps we ought to begin. You're also talking about competing priorities. You're talking about universities where we are being told that they are cutting down on the funds that are reaching those kitties, and there are potential learners who may not, after all, enroll. There are some who are already enrolled who may have to quit their programs again because of funds. We have been told about feeding programs in high schools. We had doctors out there on strike, and the matters are not fully resolved. We have got interns who are protesting. We have got even intern teachers who are also up in arms. We have nurses who are up in arms. What is wrong with us? Are our heads right? Can we get our priorities right? Why do we seem to get our priorities upside down all the time? And I think that it's not because of paucity, but because of absence and shortage of advice. Because I think advice is just as good as the person to be advised. And indications are increasingly that we are operating in an environment that can only be described as a one-man regime. That when this one person decides that it's going to be like this, then the role of everyone else, including Parliament, including the highest council in the land, is just to say yes and to find ways and means of apologizing, rationalizing, explaining and justifying the decisions that have been made. I want to believe that we will have a moment to talk about the finance bill in greater depth, and which is outrageous. You look at things like the car
Circulation.
tax. Here is a car that I have imported, because all cars coming to driving on our roads are imported. So you have paid import duty, you have paid other taxes at the point of entry, you have paid more taxes and fees at the point of registration. You are paying taxes on it as you run it through fuel. There's the road levy. The fuel has got about 11 different taxes. And you've been told that to own this car, because it's going to be circulating around, you're going to pay anywhere up to 100,000 shillings. And if your insurance underwriters do not remit the funds within 5 days, they are slapped with a 2 million shilling fine. This kind of draconianism is not taxation, it is extortion.
It is extensionism. Let's hear from Kindiki, Professor Kindiki.
Yeah, thank you, Dibar. I think basically what's going on is about priorities. The issues of the expenditure on renovation of the State House and 10 state launches. I think what is worrying Kenyans is the issue of the high taxations that people are complaining, which are contained and being discussed in the finance bill. And yet when people are complaining, they see highlights of money being spent elsewhere. And Kenyans are worried that if we are paying taxes and we are heavily taxed, where should that money go? For me, there's nothing wrong with renovating a state house or state lawns if they need to be renovated, as long as it's in the budget and also within the priorities of the country. I remember recently, if you could see the media coverage and what was going on, the head of state and other officers, we were talking about the people being relocated from the riparian land, and they are told to move in the Mathare and other areas in Nairobi. But I don't think it's only Nairobi, even other parts like in Lamu, Garissa, and so many other parts of the country. I think the Kenyans would be more interested to hear that 1.6 billion is going to relocate people in Garissa or something, because this has been a national discussion. And before the dust settles on this conversation at the national level, then we see money being spent on, renovations, vehicles and other things that they are important, but maybe they are not in the priority of the Kenyans. And I think going forward as a country, I think people are more enlightened than in the past, and people they are not in the process of budget making, but we are part of it because of the public participation. And now what worries people and what is worrying Kenyans is the priorities that we put on some of the expenditures that we are incurring in the country. So I think those who are tasked with the responsibility of advising those who are involved with the budgets, allocations, they should reconsider such kind of statements when people are crying, and before they stop crying, then you are talking of spending on leisure. To them, if, like my colleagues have said, if you are renovating a house, it means you already have a house anyway. What you want is just improvement on security issues and other issues that you want maybe to look modern and so forth, because you have a house. But there's somebody somewhere who has no house, he has nowhere to live, he has no food. The employers and the employees are complaining of high taxations, and there are many issues surrounding the finances and the economy of the country. And I think it will be the wrong time to discuss about spending on other priorities other than what is the national level. But I think I think some of the issues may be put across, maybe to test what people are going to comment about it and see what they think and what they feel. It may not be maybe happening because I may not be very familiar with why such issues should be highlighted, whereas the country is, grappling with very, very pertinent issues. We were talking of fertilizer the other day, which is affecting farmers across the country. Fertilizer means the issues of food security are affected, and people are worried. How will be the harvest be after this season? What are they going to have food or no food? So one of the basic needs of any nation is food security. It's a basic need. And the other one is housing. So if we are renovating, yes, let's renovate, but it should fit within the priorities of the country. But if it's a priority, then I think a reconsideration should be done so that at least we see expenditure on priority areas, which even the leaders in the government have said that one of the priority things is about to make the food security, improving agriculture, and making fertilizer available to the farmers, and so forth and so forth. I think it's about health. Just a few weeks ago, the doctors were on strike, and what we are complaining is about the payment. So when you look at what has made the country suffer for 56 days and made people have died, is less than the money that is going to renovate a house. And that's what the doctors are saying. We need only about 3 billion, and then you say you spend 10 billion on your renovating house. I think that is why you find people are a bit worried, and they highlight such things. But I think those who are tasked with the issues of advice, they should give the right advice so that our country can go forward and try to prioritize. But there's nothing wrong renovating and doing other things, because it should be done within the priorities of the country. And there are many issues that we are discussing that's on top priority. And I've mentioned agriculture, health, education, right, and so forth and so forth.
Let's hear from Churchill Suba. So I think there's nothing much also to belabor on this particular point. You've exhaustively talked about it, but finally we can finalize it unless there's anything else that you want to
you know, Dibal, what is interesting about this is that during the doctors, at the height of the doctor strike, we had none other than the president himself appealing to the doctors and other Kenyans to live within their means. That, let's try to cut our cloth according to our size. Yet the president himself seems to be cutting the entire apparel for himself. You remember also when he launched Bunge Towers, the president expressed the hope that the budget of parliament as an arm of government should reduce by 400 million, only for parliament to allocate almost the same amount for again another renovation of the kitchen at parliament building. This renovation business. There are three things that I think have become a gravy train in this country. One of them is tree planting. Gravy trains for siphoning public resources. And of course for tree planting, partly also for playing to the international gallery. And especially when the president is preparing to visit the United States of America. You remember the audit report on the last tree planting campaign, where the auditor said billions of shillings were spent. There is not even a single accounting document. I mean, if you fuel your car, as far as a cabinet secretary fuels a car, are we not in the business of collecting receipts? Are we not encouraged, even as drivers, that it is good to always get a receipt, because the fuel may mess up your engine? And the only way you can demonstrate that you fueled at that station is when you have a receipt. And so for me, tree planting, debt servicing, and now these renovations are avenues for siphoning public resources. And I think because State House and even the Deputy President's residence are not accessible to ordinary folks, we will not have the privilege to see the signpost of who the contractors are, who the architecture engineer is, and so on. They are just meant to siphon public resources. Completely, you know, anti-provisions of this constitution. Because I saw Lemetito struggling to explain how the mandate of the president has expanded. I mean, the functions of the president are in Article 132 of the Constitution. The powers of the president are articulated very well in Article 131 of the Constitution. We have not had an amendment of the Constitution to add the president additional functions. So when did Kato Lemetito and company, quietly amend the law, the supreme law, and added the president a new mandate? Of course, we know, and we have been hearing about all this right from when President William Ruto took occupation of State House. We were told how, the balconies and the walkways, the driveways were peeled off. The tarmac was peeled off. Cabros were brought. Then the place started flooding. Then the cabros were removed, and the whole place was recarpeted. So we are used to these shenanigans that go on at State House. But we remember, the president is a very spiritual person. I remember when he took over, he instructed religious leaders to pray all over the place and speak in tongues, And so these renovations could be a way of, exorcising the demons and evil spirits that the previous occupants, whom the president believed were alcoholic anonymous, may have left in the place. But on a more serious note, at a time when Kenyans are struggling to put food on the table, it is completely immoral and contravention of Chapter 6 of our Constitution that calls for servant leadership for anyone to defend the indefensible. I do not know what kind of renovations. We perhaps need to demand as Kenyans, because this is our money, that the Deputy President tells us what specifically. I know he said one time that during President Ruto's occupancy at Karen, the former president denied him even money to replace, toilet stuff that had worn out and so on. And so we know that some renovations took place in Karen. We know that renovations have been taking place at State House on a daily basis, and that's why, for me, these are part of the gravy train to siphon public resources.
In the spirit of austerity measures, right now, when we are talking about a very contracted economy, we're still looking for funds as well to even pay for a pension. We can see there is the public pension, that is the civil servant pension bill as well that will sail through. And maybe this will be the benefit also of Kipruto or Kirwa here, that it's meant to adjust the inflation. So if the inflation goes high as well, also that is considered upon your pension at the end of the day. But in light of what we're going through and these adjustments, and also at reappointing or reestablishing the position of a deputy comptroller at State House, is it really called for?
Well, I do not...
because that position was not there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But public service seems to have agreed. Public Service Commission seems to have agreed. And I do not know, because even in the sitting arrangement, all the time head of public service has been cabinet, secretary to the cabinet. But today there are two occupants of that position. There is head of public service, and there is the secretary to the cabinet, which tells me perhaps head of public service does not attend the cabinet. Otherwise, how will he be attending and yet is not part of the arrangement, which makes me get worried. Why is that position in that manner? So the second position, that one of deputy, is less injurious in my own opinion, but I still want us to draw some parallels here and abroad. The president of Zambia, when he took over office, he was confronted with something to sign about the vehicles that he was going to use. Then he said, there are no vehicles the former president was using. And he was told that they are there, but we feel you need a new vehicle. He said for the time being, are those vehicles moving? And he has not changed those vehicles. And here in Kenya, immediately this team took over, there was a bill of 800 million to purchase vehicles for the top three, the president, the deputy, and the prime cabinet secretary. It tells you we seem, and yet I know President Uhuru, the Mercedes he was using, is one of the latest. And therefore, I don't think in 10 years, my Mercedes is about 20 years, and I'm still using it to Kitale and all over. And yet some other people seem to be changing their vehicles almost every 2 years. It worries me, and it worries me about whether we believe in this story. And as they say, and I don't know which animal Barack Moluka will use, you know, at times you can tell us a story,
Yes.
but we will believe you through action. And that's why there are many words about a trainer, teacher, coach, but the most holistic word is mentorship. Because when you are mentoring somebody, you are giving complete exercise in human behavior. And that's why I have always told you the origin of the word mentor did not originate from England. It originated from medieval civilization in Greece, where somebody had gone to war, left his son with somebody, and when he came back, he had taken care of him such that he was a fully grown man, ready to deal with society the way societal issues demanded at that particular time. And that person was called a mentor. And that is the origin of the word. So the president should realize that what he says, including the countersuit that he dons nowadays, there are many people with countersuit in this town. Not me, because I used to wear it much earlier than him.
And yours looks different.
And mine is different because I cannot afford the kind of counter he has. So, but the most important thing is when the president says we cut our cloth according to our size, he should also allow us to see in him that he's doing the same. Otherwise, this multiplicity of positions all over, whether it is CS, whether it's now deputy, advisors and intercessors in State House, about 700 of them, we do not know why we feel that...
Is that figure fact-checked, 700 intercessors in State House?
We were told at some stage. We were told at some stage there were so many intercessors.
By who?
In the media.
Okay.
We read in the media.
I cannot remember that. I just want to get verification as well.
Of course, nowadays there are two medias. There's the social media and the conventional media. And I have access to several of them, to both. And my memory serves me well.
I like that.
All right. There's a very interesting article today also in the Business Daily by Jaini Kisero. And if we may just pick it up, just to read an excerpt of it, especially with the taxes. You see, it says, punitive taxation, a scary mistake. It's the headline today. And it says, what the hell is a motor vehicle circular tax. Is it a sin tax, a nudge tax, a green tax, or a carbon tax? Where has the state derived the constitutional authority to introduce this strange impost on citizens of its country? On the Finance Bill 2024, I think we are now at a point where we have to reach out to one of our public spirit litigation campaigners, the likes of Senator Okiya Omtata, to file a case in a constitutional court to interrogate and test whether the supreme law gives the state a carte blanche to arbitrarily introduce strange charges on the citizens merely because the government is unable to balance its books. I can't wait to see and hear somebody move to court to express itself on the big philosophical and constitutional questions that arise in a context where a foreign entity, in this case the IMF, connives with State House to impose an oppressive and punitive taxation regime on citizens as a condition for receiving bailout money from the foreign lender. We must not forget that the Finance Bill 2024 is but a child of the IMF-sponsored and so-called medium tax review strategy, TRS, under which the government committed to implement an excessive number of new tax measures on people. From documents I have read on the IMF's website, the list of decisions the government committed to implement in Finance Bill 2024 include a carbon tax and motor vehicle circulation tax, removal of several exemptions on interest income, and removal of exemptions on VAT and custom duties. Well, I can go on. I don't want to read the entire, of course, publication today, but it gives you just a snippet of what we are talking about when it comes to taxes and where we are at right now regarding the taxes.
Just allow me, before our good friend intervenes. One, we have one of our own. I think we need to task him to do what Omtata has been doing. But on the second issue...
You see, there is really like, don't off his spectacles quickly.
Yes. and the second issue is that I wish the government would also look at the history. You know, we used to have what we call road license in the past. And that road license was removed and the tax was put in the fuel levy. So that the 52% that we pay for every liter of petrol that we consume or we buy is part of that. So that we should not do it double. Either we remove it from the fuel or we still allow it in the fuel. And the logic is simple. If I'm using my car and it's now in circulation, I will fuel it. There is no car that moves without fuel. But if, let's say, you are taxing me on fuel, and at the same time you are taxing me because my vehicle is in circulation, I think it's double taxation that I don't think that this constitution does allow.
All right. So we can see the hands of the IMF playing largely on this particular tax regime that we have on the table right now. If you go by what also Jaini is saying here, Barak Muluka, we just want to respond to this one, and especially now that the president also is going to the US for that state visit. At the end of the day, we can see he's not been given a handy opportunity to be able to speak before Congress because of schedule restraints as it was being put by the Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Yeah, two things here. And the first one with taxation, I think I've tackled it a little. And Mheshimiwa here a bit. Normally, I would want to relate taxes to purposes for which we are being taxed. I don't mind paying this circulation tax, but I don't know what it's supposed to be doing. It's very difficult to see what taxes do in this country. If you talk about a tax that is around the motor vehicle, around the transportation system, as a very basic common Kenyan, I start from the cognitive space, what I can see with my eyes, and I've told you about a State House Road. I forgot to tell you about Arboretum Road, which at some point was one of the most iconic arteries in this city. Try using Arboretum Road that leads from State House Road to the Ring Road, Kileleshwa. And it will shock you. And I'm citing these roads because they are the arteries that circumnavigate State House itself. So if it is that bad around State House itself, if it is that terrible along this Mombasa Road, the gateway to Kenya, of course I know that a lot of the high flyers and dignitaries are now using the expressway. But below that expressway is Mombasa Road itself, which then becomes Uhuru Highway. And that road all the way to Westlands, to almost to Kangemi, it's in a sorry state.
Excuse me.
What are we doing with these monies that we are collecting? We need to be given a very clear indication of where the taxes are going. Otherwise, I'm forced to agree with Churchill Suba here that it is part of the gravy train, that these things are budgeted for so that they can end up in people's pockets. And I think we have gone beyond the notion of pilferage to the notion of grand larceny, yeah, because pilferage, Professor will tell us, is about stealing small things of little value. But we are now in the space of grand larceny, that we will put things in the budget, we will put procurement in the budget with the objective of stealing the whole thing. About the president going to the United States, I think it is a good thing always that we must have good relations with international partners, including the United States of America. We are reminded that it is the 60th anniversary of our bilateral relations with the United States, basically reminding us that next month we celebrate Madaraka, and thereafter we are going to mark Jamhuri, 60 years of independence. And it would have been a good thing for His Excellency the President to address Congress and tell Congress what we have done with independence, where we have brought ourselves and where we purpose to go. But I think it's also a blessing in disguise that he's not going to have to address them, because I think he would be basically window dressing a very murky situation where we have messed up with our independence. Certainly we did a good thing to look for our independence, our freedom, we got it. But in point of truth, it has turned out to be freedom to mess ourselves up. It has been a freedom that we have not known what we have wanted to do with. Yes, we do not now suffer the kind of apartheid style discrimination that our forefathers suffered under the colonial regime. We are determining ourselves, but it is largely self-determination to damnation. We have abused our independence, and therefore the president ought to thank Kenyans in the diaspora who actually protested. One of the things not being said is that there was a lot of protest against the president's then proposed address to the American Congress, and it was largely in response to that the speaker did come up with this explanation about a crowded program and security issues and so on. Who in the world could organize security issues quicker and better than the United States of America, especially for a visiting head of a third world country. In conclusion, within that space, I think the Americans are also telling His Excellency the President that we love what you are doing. You are our blue-eyed boy in East Africa, if not in Africa. And when the United States identify you as their blue-eyed boy, your people beware.
Right. Your people beware. Of course, we want to also beware of our break this time. We want to take a short break right now. When we circle back, of course, we shall also be looking at what is happening with the Limuru 3 and the unveiling of Reverend Billy Graham's statue also in the Congress that we were talking about, where it was presided over by the same speaker that Barack is talking about. This is Michael Johnson. How pivotal is that, especially in a post-truth and also in the council culture that we are in, and how pivotal was this figure when it comes to the issues of morality and, of course, faith also in the democracy of America. We take a short break. We're watching Uongozi Today here on Morning Prime.